Welcome to the 6 Miles to Supper podcast. I'm your host, Kayla Cox, and I've lost over 80 pounds with intermittent fasting 6 days a week, eating whatever I wanted at my meals, taking a cheat day every Sunday, and walking 6 miles a day. And I'm here to help you on your weight loss journey. In today's episode, I wanted to talk about whether or not it's worth it to lose weight. The thing is, sometimes things don't go well on the weight loss journey. Sometimes it's just hard. Things don't go well. Maybe you feel like you're doing everything right and the scale's just not showing the results. Or maybe you just keep going off plan. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. And in those moments when things are going poorly, you can ask yourself, is this even worth it? Why bother? And I asked myself that question a lot on the weight loss journey, especially really before I started having results. I would think, is this even going to be worth it? Even before I got started, I thought, is it really even going to make a difference? Over the course of losing 80 pounds and in the process of keeping that off, I have found that it's absolutely worth it. It is. It's worth all of the effort that goes into it. It's worth all the failure that you go through, like the overeating, the seeming to take a long time to get lessons through your head, the failing and the getting back on plan or the waiting the scale out when it seems to be stuck forever. It's totally worth it. But sometimes maybe not for the reasons that I thought it would be. And so in today's episode, I'm just going to give you 5 things that have really made the weight loss journey worth it for me. The number one thing is that I feel more myself now after having lost the weight. And, that was something, and it's kind of a difficult thing to describe because when I was obese, it was not as if my life was just a complete wreck. I had plenty of times where I was happy. I have and had, 3 kids who I was being a stay-at-home mom, and I have and had a wonderful husband. So my life now and my life back then was very, very similar. But there was always this sense that I had that I need to get this weight off, but not simply for health reasons either. It became clear to me that I was using my weight to kind of hide from life. It had become kind of a shield. And I didn't feel like I was really doing my best when it came to my weight. I knew what I felt like. Back when I was like 17, I had gotten down to a good weight and I felt really good there. I felt a lot more myself. That's the best way I know how to describe it. I felt like truly myself then. And when I was obese, I just didn't feel as much myself. What I found was that going through this weight loss and getting down to a comfortable weight for me, I just felt more comfortable in my own skin. And it's a hard thing to describe, but it's been the best thing about this whole thing, I think, has been that I just feel like myself. The second big thing that's been great is that I have a lot less pain and a lot more energy. When I started on this, when I had my I've had enough moment, I was 29 years old. And when I look back on that and how I felt much older back then. I had a lot of joint pain. My back hurt all the time. My knees hurt. I just hurt a lot. And, I would lay down on my back and I would feel like I really couldn't breathe that well. And that made me scared. There was just so many things where I was in a lot of pain and there was emotional pain there too. There was a shame that I felt about my weight. And, and I think that can be taken too far in either extreme. There are some people who will try to say that you should never be ashamed of how high the scale gets. And I'm not sure that I would agree with that. And maybe shame is the wrong word, but I think that we can all sense that, when the scale is starting to get too high, when the weight is physically taking a toll on our bodies, and when we really do need to do something about it, and call that what you will. It is a helpful emotion because I think it is important, to stay within a range. I think that certainly our society does take it to the extreme on the other end, to the point of, making it seem like you need to be super skinny in order to be, quote unquote, healthy. And I disagree with that that completely. But the other extreme is not healthy either when you can't move around and that kind of thing. So to get down to a healthy weight really did. It made life a lot easier because I had more energy. I required less sleep and I just feel more energetic, younger than I did back then. And it's really nice now to just lay down on my bed on the flat of my back and be able to breathe easily and not have to worry about that. Which brings me to my third reason why weight loss is worth it. And that's the mental space that has been created by losing the weight and just checking that off my list. I didn't realize before just how much mental space being overweight, being obese took. It was like it was on my mind constantly. I mean, it was just this in my head, like, I've got to get this weight off. I've got to lose the weight. I can't keep doing this. I've got to get the weight off. And once you get the weight off, now that's not to say that I don't think about my weight, and certainly by having like the podcast and the YouTube channel and by, writing about weight and weight loss, it is on my mind, perhaps more than it would be if I didn't have those things. But it has just freed up so much mental space. I don't worry about it like I used to. And the thing is, your weight, it touches like everything. And that is something I didn't really realize until I went through all this. But when you think about it, you are thinking about your weight when you're eating, certainly. If you're like I was, I ate very frequently, throughout the day. So it was like constantly thinking about it when I was eating. I was, of course, thinking about my weight whenever I would, get dressed. There was just, like everything was a little bit more difficult, and I would think about it so much more. But, once I got the weight off, it just becomes less of a thing in your mind. And it has just made life a lot easier. The fourth thing is that it's just easier to fit. And fit into clothes, fit into seats. Like I remember, I got into the point where when I went to the movies, I sat down in the seats and it was not comfortable. It was, like I was being compressed, like from each side. And realizing that it was like, oh, at first I thought it was that they had changed the seats. And then I realized, no, the seats are old. It's me that's gotten bigger. And I was starting to not fit into those things. And I knew that if I continued on that path, it would mean that, I would get bigger and bigger and I would fit into fewer and fewer things. I mean, even in our SUV, I would get in and I wasn't really fitting into the driver's seat like I knew that I should. And when I lost the weight, though, those things go away, because it's like you can just sit down in a normal size seat and it's fine. And it's a lot easier to find clothes that fit. And those things, even though they may seem kind of small, are really helpful. It makes life a lot easier being just at a regular weight. And the last thing is the increased confidence and sense of courage that I've gotten by losing the weight. I think it's because on the weight loss journey, you have to face fears. Now, maybe this isn't so true for people who maybe just gained a little bit of weight at some point and didn't really struggle with their weight. They just maybe got into a couple bad habits and it's maybe easier to just lose the weight. But I think when this is true for a lot of people who have struggled with their weight or had a weight problem for a long period of time, there's a lot of fear that plays into this, a lot of insecurities. And by facing those fears, one by one and losing the weight, it just increases your confidence level and you get braver about doing other things. Like for me, I never would have had the courage to, I don't think, write a book had I not lost the weight. And in fact, I do remember, when I was overweight, I would think things to myself, well, I would write a book, but if I wrote a book, then I would have to be like interviewed, maybe like what if it became a bestseller? And I would tell myself like, oh, I got to get the weight off first, because I was afraid. I was like, I would not feel capable of being interviewed and things like that. Now, it's kind of funny to look back on that and think about that because I realized I'm hiding from life. I'm not doing these things that I want to do. And I'm using my weight as an excuse. But then, once I did get the weight off, it's like, oh, I think I can write. And I've done a lot more in my life, doing things, taking risks that I would not have taken otherwise, things like going RVing for 2 years and traveling the country with my kids and my husband. That was something that I certainly would not have had the courage to do. Posting videos of myself regarding weight loss on YouTube, that would not have been a thing. So I just want to encourage you that weight loss is worth it. It is, of course, worth it for the health benefits, obviously. So in the end, weight loss has been completely worth it. It's been worth all of the hard parts, going through those. In fact, the hard parts are probably the things that really strengthen me the most. So I just want to encourage you that right now, if you're wondering, is it worth it? I think the answer is absolutely yes. It doesn't mean that your life will be perfect. And it is a dangerous game when you think that weight loss will solve every single problem. Getting down to your goal weight is not just going to magically, make you have a great financial situation or solve any problems in your marriage and that kind of thing. There are things that weight loss won't solve, but there are a lot of benefits to getting the weight off. So I hope right now, if you are having trouble on the weight loss journey, that this encourages you to keep going, keep at it. Just, take a little step at a time, and it'll be worth it. Thanks for listening to this episode, and I'll see you in the next one. Do you want to lose the weight without getting rid of the foods you love and that you'll go back to eating again anyway? My book, The Laid Back Guide to Intermittent Fasting, teaches you how to practice intermittent fasting so that you lose the weight sustainably and keep it off for good. You can get the audiobook read by me for free when you sign up for your 30-day trial of Audible. The link is in the show notes. And if you've gotten value from this podcast and you'd like to let other people know about it, it would be great if you could leave a review on either iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. Thanks.